Next
okay.
up.
Uh-huh.
Next up.
Yes.
Final Fantasy
Uh-huh.
is next up.
Uh-huh.
16.
Okay.
The 16th edition of Final Fantasy
That's a
will
lie.
not be an open world game.
Yes. Final Fantasy 16 is coming sometime. Yoshi P is directing it.
Yoshi.
He's the guy behind Final Fantasy 14. And it's resurrection from a turd to a gem. So they gave him the mainline Final Fantasy game. I mean, I guess Final Fantasy 14 was numbered, so it's supposedly mainline, but they gave him a single player game to do. And he said, like, oh, we're taking open world, like, inspiration, but it's not an open world game. Which I think means more like, it's not like open world like Skyrim, but it's going to be like open world split up by, like...
segments?
Yeah, like you're going to be in this big open world area, but it's not all interconnected. So it's probably going to be like zones like in Final Fantasy 14, if I had to guess. Maybe not as big. Well, definitely not as big. But I do think there's going to be like in between, like you go in the village, that's a little area, and then you go to the next field area, and it'll be a big area too, but it's not like all interconnected like one giant map.
Yeah.
Which is okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
I don't mind that.
It's an RPG.
Even if it's not open area, as long as it's not like tunnel running simulator like most of Final Fantasy 13, then it'll be okay.
Yeah.
But even then, like, if the gameplay's okay, the tunnel running's not the worst thing in the world. So, I'm excited for Final Fantasy 16. I didn't really play 15. I played a bit of it. It was on Game Pass for a little bit. It's gone now. Hopefully, I think this is coming to Xbox, so I'll check it out. This didn't come out during the Final Fantasy. Square did a 10-minute live stream about Final Fantasy VII's 25th anniversary to talk about Final Fantasy stuff. And they showed off. We never talked about this before, so I'll just do a quick rundown. They showed off, talked about Final Fantasy, whatever, and then they showed, like, they're doing a remake of Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core, which was another Final Fantasy, like, PSP game, I think, or Vita, I can't remember. But they're doing a remake of that, and that's coming out on all the consoles. Like, literally all the consoles, Switch, PlayStation, Xbox. And it's like, okay, cool, Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core is coming. Maybe Final Fantasy VII is coming to Xbox. And they show this. They say Final Fantasy VII is going to be 3 games. They've said that finally, because they never said how many games before.
They definitely
They were
didn't.
like, we're going to put one out and see how it goes. So if it did bad, it would have been just 1 game or whatever. Yeah. But they now said it's 3. And then they showed off Final Fantasy VII Part 2. And it's only coming to PlayStation still, man. Still only PlayStation. Like, come on. They're putting out their Crisis Core on Xbox, but not the Final Fantasy VII? Come on, man. Why you gotta do a thing to me? So, it was a very weird-ass stream they did.
Yeah.
They showed off a lot of crap when I was just like, oh, no one asked for this. Anyways. Part 2 looks interesting. I guess I'm just gonna have to bite the bullet and play it on PlayStation.
I guess so. You do own one.
I do own it, and I have the game as well.
Yeah, there you go.
Because it was free.
Well, there you go.
So I have it.
Better play.
But I want to play it on X. I don't want to use a DualSense controller. Do I sound like I'm whining?
Oh, you're totally whining.
I mean, I just like the Xbox controller. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
So, anyways, Final Fantasy. Mikey doesn't care.
100% do not.
Have you ever played Final Fantasy? You played 9,
I played
right?
10. That was good enough for me.
And 9.
Yeah, and 8. And 7.
And 7.
And 6.
And then you were like, I'm done with Final Fantasy with 10?
Yeah, not for any reason that 10 was bad, because 10 was amazing.
Yeah,
it's my second favorite Final Fantasy. It's just that
after that point you were just like,
I was just like, there's not a lot of competition shooting people in the face with guns.
Oh, okay. You need to be shooting a gun.
Yeah, it's, you grow up, you don't have a lot of time to stick into a Final Fantasy game where you want 100% the entire thing, and then,
what?
Yeah, weird, eh?
What?
Yeah. So
I can't relate.
haven't played an RPG in forever.
Yeah, I guess so.
That was back, when I was like, oh yeah, I'll play Fallout.
What about
3.
Dying Light 2?
I guess that's kind of an RPG. But you also bash zombies in the head, first-person shooter style.
So, like, Final Fantasy 15 is, like, It's not like a RPG turn-based. It's like action
combat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nah.
it's still a couple 100 hours of.
It's like an anime, but in the RPG form. Seems like it'd be up your alley.
It seems like it, but it's not.
Need that Apex RPG.
There's no Apex slides. There's no conveyor belts. To
what
put
about
things
Borderlands 3?
on. I mean, we played it.
Yeah. RPG?
Kind of. Not really.
What about Tiny Tina's? If you were to RPG it up, would that be the one?
I think
you got the gun?
I would totally get into Tiny Tina's Borderlands. It looks pretty fun.
There was a slide in Borderlands 3 too.
Yeah,
it's not the same kind of slide.
It's not the same.
Damn, you're so picky with your sliding. Holy shit!
I mean, Apex has done such a good job of everything except.
What if you modded it to have the satisfactory slide?
The satisfactory slide, just like the zero physics involved slide, unless you go up a tiny little hill.
Yeah, exactly.
Game is now broken.
Oh, damn.
With that,
okay.
Infinite velocity slide. Let's go.
You'd love it too much.
Probably.
Just sliding all around. You should make your own shooter where you just slide everywhere.
It's just sliding. Didn't that just come out?
It's called Destiny 2, and you're ice skating around as a Titan.
Oh, I love it.